Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to New Wave Global. I'm Rabia Mehmood. New Wave is an independent news site which looks at the world through a South Asian lens and relies on your support. Please do like, subscribe, comment, and also engage with our work. Tonight, for this year ender, we will be speaking about the political ups and downs in Pakistan and how Imran Khan dominated headlines in 2024. To discuss this rather turbulent matter, we have with us our colleague Raza Rumi, who's editor at large of Naya Daur Media, writer, and an academic. Raza is also currently teaching public policy and human rights at the City University, New York. RR, welcome to the show. We had an election amidst allegations of rigging, while the former Prime Minister Imran Khan remained jailed, and then Shehbaz Sharif of the PMLN became the Prime Minister, and a ruling coalition was set in place. PTI still has provincial government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Then we saw further political upheaval, issues with independence of the judiciary, political turmoil and repression continues. How do you see Pakistan's political climate in 2024?
Thank you so much, Rabia. You mentioned how turbulent the year has been, and I think that sums it up that this has been a year of constant political crises. In fact, it's not new. It's a continuation of the crises that Pakistan faces for years and perhaps decades, except that it has become more intensified and it comes in the wake of a very polarized society, a general economic meltdown, which has left a lot of people angry, especially the middle classes and the working classes, and Pakistan's changed, regional and international position. The war on terror is over. The American aid has stopped. The Western NATO assistance that Pakistan has been Pakistan has been addicted to for decades has ended. And so it is now trying to grapple with a very turbulent situation. You've rightly pointed out about, the key problem that currently we face is that we have a government, we have a cabinet, we have a federal government, provincial governments. But the Popular Party, which is headed by Imran Khan, who is in jail, they don't recognize this government. They say it is illegitimate. They say that there was rigging in February 2024. And of course, the ruling coalition denies it. But everyone knows in Pakistan that this is a hybrid order or an arrangement put into place by the military. And so therefore, by very nature, this is not a very stable arrangement. A stable arrangement requires some level of consensus, some level of democratic norms, and acceptability by all parties. The problem with Imran Khan's party and Imran Khan himself is that, he's not a conventional politician. And some say he's not even very, deeply wedded to the ideas of a democracy or parliamentary democracy, despite the rhetoric that he and his party have been propagating for the past few years, 2 years especially, because Imran Khan kind of believes in either a presidential system or one-party rule, where he does not really see the role of the opposition. The opposition should be irrelevant, should be either jailed or should be removed from the scene so that him and his party can rule with the support of the people, and all other institutions should be under their command. Now, Pakistan has a very unique and peculiar history. It is not going to happen overnight. This quest for one-man rule or one-party rule or even civilian dominance, because this is a country which has been ruled by the military for half of its life, and the rest of the half they have ruled indirectly. So to suddenly think that they're going to go away from the scene is also unrealistic. And that's why this head-on collision between the military and Imran Khan is what is defining Pakistan's current moment and perhaps months to come, especially 2025.
Okay, so this is what 2024 was also like, you're saying. And you said, like, this is a hybrid order. This is yet another hybrid order. It's not the first hybrid order, right? One was replaced by the current one. So if you, yes, PTI does say, and it kept on saying that the elections were rigged and whatnot, but they're also in the parliament. They have a provincial government, and then we saw all the ups and downs linked to that sort of, the fighting between the ruling elite. We saw what happened in November. There are big issues with censorship in the country. There is repression, and then of course there is also like governance happening in some spaces, right? There was certain gains in terms of inflation and whatnot, and then the whole sort of months long fiasco with the judiciary. So the turmoil was very much in place. Do you think it's going to do you think we'll see more of the same in 2025 when it comes to these sort of various sort of, the military, the judiciary, the current ruling coalition, the PTI, sections of establishment fighting with each other? Do you think we're going to see more of the same in 2025? And then I'll come to the rest of the questions.
So I think, unfortunately, we are headed for more of the same. If you ask me, you ask me a direct question, except that, there will be, I mean, I foresee that, the current arrangement which has been put into place is actually not working out well. It is inherently unstable, and it is becoming increasingly difficult to manage things for the military as well. So perhaps they will try and find a way to engage with Imran Khan, who's in jail. uh, his supporters say that he's a political prisoner. uh,
Mm,
and to be honest, in most of the cases that he faces, he has been bailed out by the courts.
mm,
Earlier, the courts were also labeled as pro-Imran, because they were giving him relief, they were giving him bail. But, the offenses that he has been locked up for are bailable. That's what Pakistani law is all about. And so, they will engage, the military is going to engage with him and try and find a way in which some of his demands are acceded to. Others, he would have to show some flexibility, but it all depends on how far Imran is willing to find a way of negotiation and
mm,
compromise, which, knowing Imran Khan, is very difficult because, he is a person who is very stuck with his own aura, with his own ideas, his invincibility. He's also a bit of a narcissist. But I guess the situation that his party and he are in, they will have no choice but to enter into a dialogue. And I think that is where we are heading in 2025. Now, whether that leads to an immediate release of him, one cannot really say, but I do foresee that, he can't be locked up for long. It's already been more than a year, year and a few months. And maybe in a couple of more months, if there's a negotiation and a bargain, he should be out of jail. But what he does after jail, whether he chooses the agitational path or whether he sits out and waits
mm,
for the next election, remains to be seen. He wants an immediate election because he thinks that the 2024 election was rigged, and therefore a new election will bring his party back into power. So he wants that, but the military establishment would not want an immediate re-election. They would kind of negotiate for a midterm election after 2 years or 3 years, and so that the economy gets a bit stabilized. But all of this spells uh, a disaster for Pakistani public because they
mm,
have already been suffering high rates of inflation, unemployment, low economic growth rate, over dependence on the IMF, and with more instability, more infighting within the elites. It spells doom for the common man or woman because they need growth, they need jobs, they need a better lifestyle, more welfare, more public spending, and that is not forthcoming. So, in a way, I think it is going to be a tough year. It's going to be by no means an easy year for the people, but certainly I think it will be somewhat less turbulent than 2024.
Hopefully, hopefully. So I want to speak about a bit about the geopolitics and place in South Asia and the region. We saw the Shanghai SEO summit happening in Pakistan. We've seen sort of Pakistan sort of growing a bit diplomatically. There was a bit of a relationship development in a way with India, and we continue to have a relationship with China and other countries. How do you? But there are issues. There are issues. How do you see Pakistan on this front? What's your analysis?
So, I mean, I think in terms of geopolitics, Pakistan again is in a thick soup. The Taliban government in Afghanistan is unwilling to do something about the militants that are based there. The Pakistani branch of Taliban, uh, who have been very active in attacking Pakistani state, Pakistani people. Almost every day there has been a terror incident. Of course, not as huge as it used to be, but still, one attack a day is an alarming figure. And they come in and they wage guerrilla warfare. Similarly, there are also allegations that some of the Baloch separatists, violent separatists, are getting help from Afghanistan, or at least regroup themselves in Afghanistan. That's the other problem. With India, there's been no breakthrough. It was expected that this new government after February elections will take some steps to improve things, but unfortunately, that's not forthcoming, and that is nowhere in sight. And now we have the rapidly changing situation in the Middle East. That is extremely alarming because after the fall of Damascus and its takeover by ragtag Islamist militias supported by the West very conveniently and hypocritically, Syria is likely to disintegrate as a nation, as a nation state, and perhaps turn into another version of Iraq, run different areas run by different warlords. And then the next target seems to be Iran, because Syria was the place where the Palestinian, groups such as Hezbollah and Hamas were getting some support in terms of arms and money, and that has now been effectively controlled or removed from the equation. So now Iran is the only other threat left to Israel in the Middle East. And many observers and commentators are saying that with the change in America, political change, there will be an effort for a regime change, or there may be a direct attack. Now, the latter is less likely. I think there will be a full-fledged attempt at a regime change within 1 to 2 years, just the way it has happened in Syria. They didn't need to bomb Syria incessantly, but achieved a regime change. Now, if something happens then, it's very turbulent. Obviously, it's in Pakistan's neighborhood. It's an immediate neighbor of Pakistan. And Pakistan would be impacted. Imagine that, there's turbulence in Afghanistan, there's turbulence in Iran, India is angry at you. China already, is not very happy with Pakistan because Chinese nationals have been repeatedly attacked. So it's a very tough situation for Pakistan. And God forbid, if violence or conflict escalates in Iran, it will spill over into Pakistan, and many doomsday scenario painters say that Pakistan could be the next, because Pakistan is a nuclear armed nation. Now, I hope all of that is an alarmist uh, exaggeration, but it is not beyond the possible. And that is why Pakistan needs to focus inwards and bring some measure of stability, some measure of national consensus on these very important issues, revive its economy, make it more stable, and have a foreign policy which delicately balances all these imperatives, which does not anger China anymore, which also maintains a relationship with the West, which also maintains the relationship with Gulf states that are going to increasingly recognize Israel. And so some tough choices are coming Pakistan's way. There will be that day is not far when Pakistan will be asked to accept or at least make some headway with Israel as a independent state. And that year could be 2025. You never know. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I
That's my
you
that's
have
my
made, go
pardon.
ahead. No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, no. I'm saying that's my far-fetched prediction. But that is where things are heading towards. Because see, the UAE has already accepted Israel. Saudi Arabia has had some communication. They've been talking to Israel. Yesterday's report in Haaretz from this independent paper in Israel reports that there's some understanding being developed between MBS and Israel. Now, MBS is also worried about public opinion in Saudi Arabia, but MBS has been wanting Pakistan and Indonesia, the two large Muslim majority countries, to either accept or recognize or change their stance towards Israel. So, and then it would be easier for him to sell that to his public. And that pressure, and Saudi pressure is something that Pakistan cannot say no to. Pakistan
Mm,
can still resist the Americans.
mm.
Pakistan can still play
China.
games with the Chinese. But when it comes to Saudi Arabia, because our largest source of remittances is Saudi Arabia, we are an energy dependent country for oil and for cash. It is Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan cannot say no to Saudi Arabia. So I think that is the big challenge coming towards Pakistan's way, and that is why a government in Islamabad that can take tough and groundbreaking decisions uh, has to be in order, has to be ready and prepared, and should minimize the domestic political challenges as far as possible.
I was actually going to say that you have painted a doomsday scenario yourself when you were saying other people who are painting the scenario, you were painting it. So, on this note, one question, although you've kind of mentioned like what needs to be done, but do you think that the powers that be, as we call them here, realize that we have all these challenges ahead, because it looked like they were so inwardly focused in 2024, but like the global challenges, do you think that they recognize that they need to address multiple things, and especially with regards to what's happening on the with the militancy and growing attacks on the country, that kind of like sort of that's a big problem. That's about like that impacts everyone, specifically the people on the borders, but everyone. Please.
Uh, Honestly, Rabia, that is my biggest fear. I'm very concerned that the um, Pakistan's military establishments, let's call a spade, that
Mm.
sets Pakistan's foreign policy and security policy and takes occasional input from the civilians. I think they've been too busy managing domestic politics and managing day-to-day terror, threats, militant threats, that they have not really thought about these long range or medium term issues. What is happening in the Middle East, what is going to happen with Iran, things like climate change, things like water scarcity, negotiations with India, what is going to happen with Afghanistan and Central Asia. And I think the time has come for Pakistan's civilian politicians to assert their power, their input, their experience, and tell them that we need to sit down and recraft a 5 to 10 year vision for Pakistan. I don't think they're prepared, honestly speaking, because they are too. You see, the tenure of an army chief who calls the shots is 3 years. Now, this one has been extended to for another 2 years. So there's a far. So he may have more. The current incumbent may have more time, but generally, the first year is spent consolidating themselves. The second year is spent, you know, implementing their policy or whatever changes. The third year is spent handing over charge and preparing to retire. So hardly there's any time for the army chief to set in policy. The prime ministers are perennially trying to save their position, ward against opposition or threats or whatever, interference by the military, interference by the Supreme Court, things like that. So who actually calls the shots in Pakistan? That's a big question. If it's the military, then the military need to be, thinking and working in a different manner. If it's the civilian politicians, then they are obviously not in charge. So I think this is something that we need to highlight, and Pakistan's civil society should be urging and the establishment, both the political and the military establishment, that you have these serious threats geopolitically and internally, and you have to address them, especially, I mean, look at climate change. I mean,
Mm.
Lahore, the second largest city of Pakistan, is unlivable. It's a deadly urban metropolis. People are losing their lives and their health. It might just disappear in 20, 30 years if the current state of affairs is not managed. But there seems to be little or no reflection.
Now, I wanted to ask about climate in 2024 and also population. Another issue that we don't even want to talk about. No one wants to, none of the provinces want to talk about. It's a provincial issue. And no one is paying heed to that. What do you have to say about that?
Rabia, the thing is, you're absolutely right. Population, all of Pakistan's neighbors,
Mm.
same levels of development, same histories, Bangladesh, Iran, India, they've controlled their population growth rate. You know, it is only Pakistan, Nigeria, and Afghanistan, which incidentally have the highest number of kids outside the school, have the highest population growth rate, and which also have polio virus, while the world has eliminated polio virus. So,
Yes.
you can see that how these things are interlinked: education, women's empowerment, population growth, environment, and political stability, because all three are also basket cases. Afghanistan has been mired in conflict. Pakistan is almost a banana republic. Nigeria has perennial conflict, constant conflict. So, I mean, if you look at these big issues, the debate has not even started in Pakistan. There are a few voices here and there, one politician making a speech and another one making a policy. Nobody is paying attention. The provincial governments are busy blowing their trumpet and the political parties, all political parties are, and their leaders who are in power are busy either consolidating themselves and making money for the next election, filling up their coffers, party coffers, enriching their families. They're not interested in any serious issue. The military establishment wants to control, keep Imran in jail, minimize his threat. They're not interested. So, who the hell is actually interested in Pakistan's long-term crises? I see no one. I mean, you have seen the deadly floods. They say biblical floods, and then they go to the world and say, "Give us money. We have faced this disaster." And the world says, "Well, what have you done for yourselves? Have you diverted the money from defense expenditure, from wasteful expenditures? What have you done for your people? What have you done for welfare? None." Same is the case for population planning. Hardly any budgets have been reserved. And don't forget that the role of the religious right is so high that they have even removed the advertisements for population planning, for contraceptives, from television, from radio, even posters and billboards on in urban areas have been removed under the pressure of right wing. So
Mm.
I think this is a alarming scenario, and I'm sorry if I sound too negative. I mean, I don't see it changing in 2025 as such, but I think it is something that ultimately will have to be addressed by Pakistan's elites, because climate change is an issue which is also going to take away and hit the elites equally. Of course, the poor are more vulnerable, but if the elites and their palatial homes and bungalows and factories and shopping malls and plazas are affected by floods and earthquakes, I mean, what are they going to do with all that money? Some of them have parked their money abroad, but not all. So, so I guess they will have to be, and I think one big failure, if you ask me very directly, while I'm blaming the military elites and the political elites, I think Pakistan's civil society has
Mm.
also been an unfortunate, what you call, player in this equation. It is divided. It is forever fighting with each other. Pakistan,
Toothless.
it is, of course, the state has tried to repress the NGOs, cancel their registration. But, they're not really, I mean, most of them are dependent on foreign funding. Let's be very direct.
Mm.
Local philanthropy goes to charitable causes, which will bring some religious salvation. They don't go to these issues of climate change, of education, or uh, you know, population welfare, and uh, and the civil society is also has a very strange relationship with the state. So, a lot of them are concentrated in Islamabad. All these organizations, they work with the government because they're also consultants for many donor agencies, because I've been one, so I know the landscape, with bilaterals, with multilaterals, with the World Bank, with the Asian Development Bank. They work with the government. They don't want to annoy the state. Also, state is very brutal. Once a civil society actor on his own or her own challenges the state, they blacklist them. Like
Mm.
our presenter Marvis Harmad on New Wave Global. I mean, she was blacklisted by Pakistan's establishment and she had no work. She's now
Mm.
abroad, unemployed. She was unemployed in Pakistan. And, her mainstay is New Wave Global. But that's not enough for a professional for 30, 40 years who has experience, she can serve, do much more in Pakistan. But she's a black sheep of Pakistani establishment's, worldview. So there's no collective action.
Mm.
And then Pakistan's left that makes a lot of noises about redistribution and revolution and this and that. It has zero presence on ground. It has little pockets here in Lahore, in Islamabad, maybe in Karachi, maybe one district somewhere. It has no organizing.
Many
Also see,
progressives, it's such a tiny group. The real
yeah,
presence on the ground is the likes of
yeah, but
TLP.
they need to introspect. Why are they so tiny? Why are people buying Imran Khan as a messiah and not, let's
But
say,
Saad Rizvi and Saad
or
Rizvi.
Saad Rizvi, extreme right. So, what's
Mm.
wrong with the leftist message? Is it connecting to people? Is it vernacularized? Or is it forever citing Marx and Engels and Che Guevara or, Gramsci or other foreign references and following some textbook predictions on revolutions, etc.? No, it is not connecting with people. It has to be
But
have a vernacular voice. Saad
I
Rizvi,
see. Please go ahead. But I see what you
Saad
mean.
Rizvi,
But you also see like Mohsin Daur was barred from entering Punjab University today. So there is state brutality. Not saying that he represents the left, but
I mean,
he
he's a progressive politician.
he's
Of
a
course, it is
progressive
denied.
politician. So
Yeah.
there's also this kind of brutality, and the Saad Rizvis and others, and Imran Khan prior to that had the state support. So I see your point, but yes,
Look,
please
look,
finish.
Rabia, Mahrang Baloch faces the gravest of odds. Whose family, whose father, whose brother, whose cousins, her fellow comrades have been picked up. They are missing. Mahrang has organized herself. That mullah in Gwadar, who was speaking on behalf of the fisher folk,
Maulana
he has
Hidayat.
Maulana Hidayat, he has organized the PTM, Manzoor Pashteen. I mean, Ali Wazir is still in jail, but PTM is very much an alive movement, is showing an alternative vision for Pakistanis. So the thing is, why can't left work? I mean, why can't left work with these groups? Why can't it? Why does it have? Why does every left movement has to have a little outlet of their own to sell a story or ideology? There are already social movements in Pakistan ongoing. Leverage them, build on them. So I'm not critiquing the left. I'm
No,
in no
you're saying
position.
the messaging in
Gee,
the civil
that's the
society
thing.
community.
So I see Saad
That's the
Rizvi and
messaging.
his dad. They speak in rural Punjabi. They use abusive swear words, which are used by and every which is an everyday reality. They call names, the opponents are called names. They offer simplistic ideas, populist ideas. Imran Khan also has simplistic populist ideas, but the message has gone through. And the thing is, why is this progressive? And I'm not talking about, you see, I'm in no position to
Mm,
critique the left. Let me be very clear. I'm just giving you my observations about the larger problem with Pakistan's civil society and political society, that they seem to be clueless, rudderless in this situation. And of course you can criticize me as well, and I will criticize myself because I have that self-awareness that I'm studying abroad mostly. Half the year I'm abroad. I work abroad, as you mentioned in your intro, and who am I to tell those who are working in Pakistan? But as a Pakistan watcher, as a Pakistani analyst, I do feel, and I've spent last 30 years looking at these things, and I feel extremely, extremely sorry and sad for my country. Because 30 years ago we were talking about the same issues, and
mm,
these issues were manageable. But they've become now even worse. We still had, when I was growing up, we still had some progressive hope with the Pakistan People's Party. Gone. We had in between, we had a little hope with Nawaz Sharif as this, person who will bring peace with India, who will, fix Pakistan's civil military imbalance. Gone. Hope over. Then we thought Imran Khan came into the fray. He was this clean man. He will give a new vision, progressive vision to the young people. Hope gone. It's all right wing. Now you have these stark realities, raving, loony mullahs on the roads, waiting to pounce at the first opportunity for state collapse, or you have the opportunistic political parties, including Imran Khan's political party, ready to pounce at power with no meaningful program, no meaningful policy or idea for change. And this is linked to climate. This is linked to population. This is linked to women's rights. This is linked to human rights. This is linked to child rights. This is linked to the future of millions of kids in this country who have no education, no prospects, and not even enough nutrition, because 30 to 40% of young people, especially children, are stunted. You know.
mm.
Anyway, I think this can go. We can go on and on, but let me
This
rein my thoughts.
No, this was, you're talking about like the loonies and like all the hope over the decades. And I can't move on from the TLP being created in 2016 and 17, and another obstacle created and put in our paths in a very organized way. And it feels like we have only regressed. We keep on regressing. You were speaking no holds barred. This was fully uncensored. I'm thinking, should I beep it at one point or not? Because you did say something which could which, or should I let it go? But I was laughing because that's how we cope with things in Pakistan. There was a lot of self introspection. We were speaking about our own larger sort of community, civil society, and media. The role of media is another thing that we might speak about at some other point, but also laughing because that's how one handles all this. This was supposed to be a year ender with some insight into what will happen in 2025 in Pakistan, but became a venting session. And thank you so much, RR. And on that note, I'll say Khudafis to our viewers, and thanks for watching.